Acting Secretary Sue, thank you for being here today. I wanted to begin by expressing my concern about the length of time the Biden administration has allowed the Department of Labor to operate without a Senate-confirmed secretary at the helm. As you were aware, your nomination to be the Secretary of Labor is opposed in a bipartisan majority of the Senate, and you will not be confirmed to this position during this Congress. Despite that reality and repeated requests to the President to put forth a nominee who can receive adequate support to be confirmed, the Biden administration has instead left you in place as acting secretary on an indefinite basis with no current plans to put forth another nominee for Secretary of Labor. You've also been listed on the White House website as a member of the cabinet, quote, in order of succession to the presidency, signaling that despite having never been elected to any office nor confirmed by the Senate to any cabinet level position, the White House believes that you are eligible to assume the presidency pursuant to the Presidential Succession Act of 1974. In October, I led a letter to President Biden along with 29 of my colleagues urging that the White House clarify its position on this very issue. I've yet to receive a response to that letter, and so I want to raise that question with you today. Do you believe that if the need were to arise, that you are currently eligible to assume the presidency under the Presidential Succession Act of 1974?
Senator, it is the honor of a lifetime to have been nominated by the president to serve in his cabinet.
Absolutely. And do you believe that you are in the line of presidential succession?
So prior to being nominated, I was confirmed as the Deputy Secretary of Labor in 2021. And then when my predecessor left, I became the acting secretary through the normal...
Yes, ma'am, I'm aware. My question is, do you believe that you should be in the presidential line of succession? It's just a yes or a no.
I mean, Senator, I put it this way. I serve at the pleasure of the president. I appreciate his confidence in me. We've spent some time here today talking about the work
Absolutely.
of the department and the important ways that we are...
Yes, this is my question is specifically about the presidential line of succession. Do you believe, yes or no, that you should be in that, having not been confirmed to this position by the United States Senate? So just, yes, you believe you should be able to succeed in the presidential line of succession if that were ever to happen, or no, you believe you are not actually in that line of succession?
Can I say two things about that, Senator? The first is that
well, you know
the
what,
question
I actually have a lot of questions I want to get to on this, but I thought that would be a really easy yes or no, and to me it's no. You haven't been confirmed and therefore should not be in the line of succession. I mean, this is a big deal, and I think that's a simple answer, and unfortunately I didn't get that from you. Like many other of my colleagues, I've been very concerned about a number of rules that have been issued by the Department of Labor during your tenure, starting with the new overtime rule, and I know we've discussed that a bit today. The new rule increases the minimum salary threshold for the executive, administrative, or professional overtime exemption by 65% from the 2019 rule, and increases the minimum salary threshold for a highly compensated employee overtime exemption by 41% from the 2019 rule. I've heard from numerous stakeholders in Alabama about the huge detrimental impact that this rule will have on them. As an example, many of Alabama's small colleges and universities, which include HBCUs. We have more HBCUs in Alabama than any other place in the nation. And as I hear from them about dealing with this, it is going to have significant ramifications. My office has spoken to schools that don't have large budgets or endowments, but are facing hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional cost for the upcoming academic year, having to implement this rule and reevaluate salaries across the board due to this rule's provisions. At the same time, those schools are unable to lock down their incoming freshman classes or fully make informed decisions and budgetary choices about the upcoming academic year. And if you look at that, you know, this rule is obviously having a huge impact in addition to all of those things in small businesses in Alabama. And to me, small businesses are the heartbeat of this country. They're what make main streets go. They're what allow people to achieve the American dream. And given these realities, do you, at the very least, envision the department granting additional flexibility with respect to the timing of this rule's implementation across the country?
So, Senator, I agree with what you said about the importance of small businesses in our economy. There's no question about that. And we engage with small businesses in all of our rulemaking, but also in our overtime rule. In terms of the timing, actually...
And they're supportive of that?
We got comments on all sides. We got, I think I said this, over 33,000 comments on overtime. I believe that's the right number for that particular rule. And we do hear from small businesses who rely on the Department of Labor to create a level playing field on which they can compete, especially in a moment where they need to recruit and retain, like keep workers by making sure that their working conditions are competitive. But let me just address the timing, because that is one of the things, and the ranking member and I already talked about this some, is we heard comments about the need for some time to come into compliance. So our overtime rule goes into effect in 2 phases. The first is on July 1st. It will go up, it's a bump based on the current methodology, not the new methodology, but the current rule multiplied by current wage levels. The other bump, the bump of the 35th percentile in the new rule, is going to go into effect on January 1st of 2025.
I hope you'll take these things into consideration, and I am obviously out of time, but I heard my colleague from New Hampshire mention there is a big cost of living difference, as she mentioned, from in New Hampshire and Boston. When you look at the low cost of living in Alabama, there is a detrimental effect that occurs, and I hope that you will take all of those things into account. So thank you very much for your time today.
If I could just also say, the way our formula works does take that into account, and I'm happy to follow up if you want to hear more about that.